Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Hey everybody, you are now listening to the Moco, the Montgomery County, the Moco Sidelines Sports Show. Well, first of all, why is that cool? Because you are listening to a prelude and really the first ever episode, a teaser episode of a new show. Now, what is the show and why is that cool? Well, we wanted to create a show here at Lone Star Community Radio that focuses on and brings to your attention, to your ears, and promotes the great things going on with our local high school sports, with our athletes, with the teams, with the coaches. There are so many great athletes and so many great teams right here in Montgomery County, and so many great stories. As a longtime resident of Houston and Montgomery County, and a lifetime sports fan, and actually an athlete earlier in my days, long time ago. Obviously, I watch and listen to a lot of sports, and I noticed that around Texas there were some shows similar to this. Dallas does a similar show to talk about a lot of what goes on in the Dallas and Fort Worth metro community. Even Metro Houston has a podcast that talks about a lot of what goes on with sport, and it's primarily football. A lot of those shows are primarily football shows. What we want to do with the Moco Sideline Sports Show is promote all of the high school sports. Now, obviously, there are some sports that involve more athletes and have bigger teams, or maybe are just a little bit more popular than some others and more recognized than some others. Football being one. This is South Texas, so football obviously gets a lot of attention. But as an athlete who played both football and baseball, and then also some club sports, I know what it's like to be a part of those other sports as well. And what we want to do is just bring to you a lot of those stories and recognize a lot of the great achievements and accomplishments of what's going on with those teams. So that's what the show is all about, and that's what we're going to do. And we're going to bring you new shows every month, try to air shows every week as we can, because we know that there's no shortage of content. Big thanks to Lone Star Community Radio for the opportunity to do this. I think it's a very special opportunity, and I know we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. We've already done one great interview, and you're going to hear from Coach Craig Martin, head football coach at Magnolia High, here in a few minutes to wrap up today's show. But we're going to talk to a lot of coaches and hear really what's going on. And again, the goal is to take you right to the sidelines. Fall sports are in full swing. School has now been back in session for a couple of weeks. Volleyball started a couple of weeks ago, and football kicked off last week. And there's already a lot of great things going on around Montgomery County. You've got, on the volleyball scene, Willis, Oak Ridge, and Grand Oaks are already undefeated, all 3-0 in district play. And really the exciting story to follow this year, if you're not a big high school volleyball fan, here's something that you should know. The Grand Oaks team, led by head coach Morgan Rogers, they've been building a team now since 2018. They're back-to-back state champions. So we've got a team with Grand Oaks right here in our own county, right here in our own backyard, that are back-to-back defending champions, and they're going for a third state championship this year. That's exciting. That's something to follow, and we look forward to following that story all year, and hopefully talking to Coach Rogers before too long. On the football scene, a lot going on. Most teams kicked off last week. You've got teams that, of course, are already 1-0, but there's some exciting stories around the county this year. You've got 3 schools with brand new coaches, and that's always something fun and interesting to follow, to see how those teams grow and those teams develop. So we definitely wish good luck to Johnny Sanders, the new head coach at Cleveland for the Cleveland Indians. The New Caney Eagles have new coach Sheldon Benight. And Oak Ridge, the War Eagles now have new head coach Tyler Blackshire at the helm. He came over from Magnolia, where he was the defensive coordinator last year. So a lot of exciting things to watch, and we just look forward to bringing you those stories throughout the school year. As the year goes on, we'll get more into, of course, basketball, track, baseball, golf. We're going to try to represent as much as we can. Can we talk to every team and recognize every sport? Well, we'll do our best. But again, this show is really going to be about just promoting local high school sports as best we can. And as I thought about putting this show together and what we could do to really make it special and important, one of the things that I learned as an athlete is you learn so many life values when you're playing sports. Now, you can learn those life lessons in a lot of different ways through a lot of different activities as a young person. But sports teaches us so many things, and things that really came into play later in my career, later in being a father and a husband. There's so many things that just made that I took from sports, and we all can learn from sports that get applied later in life. So one of the things we want to do with the Moco Sidelines Sports Show is with each show, kind of let it have its own theme in terms of a lesson or something that can be taken away from sports. And if you make a list, it's a very long list of things that can be learned, whether it's discipline, whether it's goal setting, whether it's health and fitness, whether it's creative strategizing, which helped me as a sales manager in my day. But with today's episode, with our first episode, we want to start with what's at the core of team play in sports, and that's teamwork. So one of the questions that we asked Coach Craig Martin is how his team has represented and his group of athletes have represented teamwork already through the off season and through game one. Teamwork is so important. Again, even in the workplace, in the family, and other organizations, there's so many times where I was working in an office or in an environment, and just needed to remind myself that everyone contributes, everyone plays a valuable part. People can always be replaced, but the people that you're working with are important, and they bring skills and assets and traits to the goals at hand, and they're worth being recognized. And it just brings about fair play and sportsmanship, and it was just it's a great lesson, and that's going to be the first value that we talk about through the first show. So, teamwork. And we'll wrap up today's show with the interview that we had with Coach Craig Martin, head football coach with Magnolia High School. Coach was kind enough to visit with us and take a few minutes the morning of Labor Day. He was actually on the way to practice. There's little break, if no break at all, for coaches during their sports season. But he took a few minutes to visit with us to not only talk about his team and the goals for the team, but a little bit about himself and how he came to Magnolia after some time coaching Temple, and like I said, how he came to Magnolia and how he's enjoyed being the coach there so far. And then he was kind enough to wrap up the interview with our little game, the Sideline Shuffle, where we asked a few fun questions just to get to know him a little bit better. So thank you, Coach Martin, and here's the interview with him. All right, Coach, here we go. Coach Martin, thanks for joining us. We're here with Coach Craig Martin, the head football coach for the Magnolia Bulldogs. Coach, appreciate you joining us. You are the first interview on the first episode ever of the Moco Sideline Sports Show. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you and just to get to know you. And as you know, the reason for us doing this show is just to bring local folks, fans of the local high school sports, and certainly fans of your school, closer to the game and to the players, and just get to know a little bit more about you. So we're going to jump right in.
Sounds good. That's good. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, this is on week 2 of the season. Week 1 is already wrapped up, and you kicked the season off with a victory. Congratulations on a win over Lake Creek, 41-13, I believe.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Kids played really, really well. Going into week 1 is always quite the crapshoot, if you will, with high school kids. I've done this a long time, and sometimes you feel good about it and you play like terrible, you play bad, and then I felt bad and played great. So, long time ago, I quit kind of worrying about the expectations of it, and just kind of wait to see what happens. But our kids played really, really well. We were pleased with our conditioning. It was a really, really hot and humid night. So we were really pleased with our conditioning. We fought a little cramping there towards the end. But all in all, it was a good night. Thought we played really well.
Good. No, congratulations again. So, yeah, let's go just a little bit deeper into the game and talk a little bit more about it. What did you expect going into the game, and maybe what did you see from your team?
I expected to see us, play well. I did. I say what I said earlier, kind of jokingly, but I really did expect us to play well. I think one of the things that we have focused on significantly since the end of last season, through spring training and through fall camp, was execution. We generally will play football hard, and we've got that. I don't really ever have to worry about our kids playing hard. Where we've hurt ourselves in the past is we've shot ourselves in the foot too many times and made too many critical mistakes in football games against teams that you can't make those mistakes against. So that was what I was really hoping to see. On Friday night, it was just us execute at a high level. And I was really pleased with the way that we did that on offense, defense, and special teams. Special teams is always kind of one that's out there sometimes too. In scrimmages and fall camp, you just don't get a chance to do that stuff live at full speed as much as you'd like to. But I thought for the most part, we played really well in all three phases. We made some mistakes. I think the good thing is that all of those mistakes are correctable. And so, yeah, all in all, when you take from all the way from January all the way to last Friday night, that was it was a good night. Like I said, I think a lot of the preparation that we put into it going through the off season and through fall camp showed. We were able to throw the ball a lot better. That was one of our focus areas as well from last year, was to be able to throw the ball offensively with more success, and we did that. So yeah, there was a lot of really good things. I thought our defense was solid. The first score, we gave up was on a field goal attempt that we snapped it over the holder's head, and we tried to make a pass downfield, and they intercepted it and ran it all the way back down for a touchdown. So, played really, really well defensively, and made it hard on those guys to move the football, and the offense was clicking. And like I said, we did some really good things on special teams.
Good, good. Well, last year you made the move to bump up to 6A, had a good season, barely missed the playoffs. I think you were 5-5. What was the theme and the focus going into the summer workouts to try to prep for this year? So I'm kind of taking it back a second, but coming off
Sure.
of a pretty good year last year, what was the focus and the theme of your summer?
Yeah, so I think the focus, always is going to be on strength and conditioning. I mean, I think no matter what the year, no matter how good of a bad year you had the year before, you graduate a group of guys that have matured and then been in your program for a long time. So that's always number one. And like I said, the big focus for us was not beating ourselves, in all the different aspects that you can do that, right? In fact, that's kind of we do bracelets, that we wear each year, and that's our bracelet this year, is don't beat the Bulldogs. So whether that is not being at practice or being late or not, getting in trouble in class, all those different things, like those are all areas where we're beating ourselves. So that was really our focus, going all the way through off season and all the way through fall camp. Outside of all the things that you normally would do, like I said.
Well, you always want to get bigger, stronger, faster.
Yeah, sure,
Exactly. There's always something to develop the team better. So for
sure.
sure. And when you hear about teams making championship runs, and this is at any level, you hear the coaches talk about the team being disciplined, and that can mean and look like a lot of different things. But I think you really touched on it right there, and that was great.
Absolutely. It's a moving target. And
Yeah.
it's tough, it's tough, but I think it was just an area where I felt like we really needed to focus on it. And, some people say it's attention to detail, and those things are all true. Ours wasn't always a discipline issue. It was sometimes just a lack of execution, right? I mean, a third down completion that hits us and we drop it, or a busted assignment, or a misfit, from a linebacker. All of those things where it was like, what are we doing? And those were the things that really cost us. When you look back at last year, we were 4 points from being 7-3, so the margin for error is a little small, and you can't beat yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, you kind of led right into my next question. Let me kind of preface it just a little bit. One of the things we want to try to do uniquely and different about this show is to give each one of our episodes and our shows a theme that kind of relates to the lessons you learn in sports, but then come to play later in life.
Yep.
As you've gotten into coaching and I've gotten into different things in my career, and I was an athlete as well in high school and college. So many things I learned back then have come into play and helped me in my career or family or whatever. That we call those life lessons, right?
Sure.
In fact, I even remember I read a quote that you said, I think when you moved from Temple to Magnolia, that you want to develop the tools and skills to make the athletes better people once they leave campus. Does that sound familiar? Is that you?
That sounds about right. Yes, sir.
And I think it's something a lot of coaches are trying to do, right? It's more
Sure.
than just the coaching and the sports. We're trying to build, leaders for the future. But for the first show, the first theme, we wanted that core value to that we talk about to be one of the easiest ones and the most obvious, and that's teamwork. So let me just ask it simply this way. Throughout the summer and into the first game last week, what were some examples of teamwork that you saw from your group?
I think just supporting each other, number one. In the course of a football game, there's so many different areas that you can see teamwork and that team mentality. And sometimes that's good and bad, right? We address a lot of those things in our off season, and I think it's a some people say it's a lost skill that kids have nowadays, is that leadership and that team mentality. But to me, it's something that you have to work on every single day. It's not a catchphrase. It's something that you really do have to talk and take those teachable moments to talk about teammates and teamwork. And it's not always pretty. It's not always a friendly conversation, right? That's the hard part too, is that there, teamwork comes with conflict too. And so you have to kind of work through that. Even let's just say the first parts of this game that we had to learn, there was some lessons learned within the course of that game, especially, I've been an offensive guy now for a long time and a play caller for a long time. And we started off doing something very different than what we had done. But again, our focus had been on improving our passing game. So we threw the ball, 8 or 9 times in a row to start the game, which for us is very unusual, right? We are a kind of a power running football team. And so, you can see that reaction in your running backs and your other guys that are used to getting the ball, right? It's like, hey, am I not going to get the ball? And those are things that they have to learn, where it's like, hey, listen, this is about an offense moving the ball forward, not specifically one guy. And if you will be part of the running of this whole program, you're going to end up getting your touches too. Like I said, if you just look at it from that standpoint, right? If I'm a running back, I'm probably not super excited that we threw the ball 11 times in a row to start the game. But then at the end of it, I end up scoring 3 rushing touchdowns. So it's because of how the system works. And I think that was a great example this week. And like I said, you can find those opportunities everywhere all the time. So where sometimes I'm the servant, and sometimes I'm the receiver of that service. But it's such a moving target, and it's something that football specifically here we're talking about. But I think being involved in high school sports in general, right, teaches all those things. We say all the time that life's not all about football, but football teaches you all about life, and those things are true. I think you could fill in the blank with the sports.
Yep, that's perfect, exactly. And as we go through this show, and we hear from volleyball coaches and basketball, and we want to try to touch. This isn't just a football show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Throughout the season, we want to talk to different coaches and players in different sports, and I look forward to hearing those stories, because that's what people want to hear more about. Are those
Sure.
things that are happening behind the scenes that we don't get to see when we're just sitting in the
Oh,
stands. So that's
there's no doubt.
a great call, coach.
What most people don't understand is that we're about 10% coaches and about 90% sports psychologists.
And you didn't know to take the classes ahead of that
Amen.
beforehand, did
Amen.
you?
Yeah,
So.
they didn't teach us all that in PE classes. That's right.
So what got you into coaching? You were a 2-sport athlete, I think.
Yeah.
But how did you make that transition into coaching?
Yeah, so
I've
I've got a kind of a weird story for most head football coaches, but I played football and baseball in high school. Of course, like most people do. I'm from Temple originally, and so when you grow up in Temple, Texas, you grow up to be a Wildcat football player. I mean, that's what you do. And And so we did that. I was much better at baseball than I was at football, so thank God for that. But I played baseball at UT Arlington, and then kicked it around in the minor leagues for a little bit before I got into coaching. And the coaching part for me was what I always wanted to do anyways. Like I wanted to be in the big leagues, and if I didn't do that, I wanted to be a coach. So that's what I did. Started off, coaching football and baseball. Was a head baseball coach for 10 years before Coach Spradlin, our head coach there at Temple, convinced me to focus a little bit more on the football side of things. And, a couple of years later, I was an offensive coordinator. And a couple of years later after that, I was a head football coach. So it's an interesting journey that kind of got me to where I'm at. But yeah, that's my story.
It's a good one. So why Magnolia? You made a good transition. In fact, it seems like a few coaches have gone from Temple to Magnolia. There's a bit of a
Yeah.
pipeline there, I guess. But
There is. It's kind of a long story, but there's a lot of Temple. There's a lot of Temple people here for sure. And the way that it all happened was Mike Holland, uh, the former superintendent here from years back. He was a Temple guy originally. He was, gosh, when I was in junior high, probably the head basketball coach in Temple. And then he ended up taking Todd Stevens, who was a football coach for us. And I think he had gotten out before I got into high school, into administration. So Dr. Stevens came down here as like his deputy superintendent. And then Dr. Stevens became the superintendent and brought uh, Dr. Bullock, who was the principal that hired me as the head baseball coach in Temple, as his deputy soup. And so there's a lot of Temple people here. Temple people call it Temple East. Um, and the reality of it is like, well, it's just worked out well for us. I think the leadership here in Magnolia is great, and just blessed to be able to come to a place where you're supported in what your beliefs are. I think we all share a lot of those same beliefs, and how extracurriculars, not just athletics, but extracurriculars all over across the board work, and their value to developing young people. And so that's kind of how it happened. But that's how the pipeline from Temple to Magnolia started. And yeah, I was fortunate to be a byproduct of that.
well, good. No doubt Magnolia is glad to have you. So it seems to be working. So hey, we're just about out of time. In fact, we've hit 15 minutes, but I want to wrap up with something kind of fun. We want to call it the sideline shuffle.
Okay.
So we're kind of going to go with a no huddle offense here. 2 minutes left in the game, coach. You got no timeouts left. All right.
Hmm.
These are just a few quick fire questions about you. This is
Sounds good.
not football related. This is just a 2 minute sprint offense, no huddle to get to know you real quick. You ready?
Sounds good. Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
I'm a vanilla guy.
All right. Favorite TV or TV series or movie?
The Office.
Oh, all right. Great one. A funny one. All right. If you're working out or if it's pregame, what's your pumped up song? What's your go-to song to get pumped up?
Man, I'm a red dirt kind of Texas country guy. So Randy Rogers, Pat Green.
There you go. There you go. You never go wrong with that. All right. Now we're out of football. What's your go-to karaoke song when you're ready to fire that up?
Oh,
Karaoke.
Jesse's Girl. You got to go with Jesse's Girl.
Oh, okay. Going back to the 80s. I like that.
Absolutely.
All right. Springsteen. Or not
Yeah, that way
Springsteen,
you can
Springfield.
distract from how bad your voice is, because everybody just likes the song.
Everybody's singing along and they get louder than you.
That's right.
All right. When you're away from football, which isn't very often, what do you do to unwind a little bit?
I like to hunt and fish, play golf.
There you go. Always good answers. Okay, your three picks for this year's season. First of all, and I know you're a baseball guy, so we're coming back to that. But NCAA football season just started off. Who's winning the Natty this year?
Ooh, after watching this past weekend, Ohio State's pretty good.
Any favorites?
I think anybody within the top 10 could win it for sure. I mean, I'm a Texas guy, not necessarily a Longhorn fan. I'd like to see Texas and A&M compete for it at all times. And then we've got some kids that are out there playing. I've got a kid playing at Houston, got some kids playing at Tulsa, Utah. But I think anybody within that top 5 has a chance to win it.
All right, who wins the Super Bowl this year?
Not the Cowboys. How about we just put it that way?
All right, and I know you're a baseball guy too. We already talked about who's winning the World Series this year.
Oh man, let's just stay hometown. Let's go with the Stros.
Easy answer. Go Stros. All right. Hey, coach, you've got a big game coming up this week against College Station. They just took one on the nose a little bit to Klein Collins. You meet them later this season. I just want to say good luck, and obviously thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
All right, go get them.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to the Moco Sideline Sports Show. We'll be bringing you new shows, new content every Thursday at 1 o'clock right here at Lone Star Community Radio. Lone Star Community Radio is a nonprofit, so please support the station by visiting www.irlonestar.com for information about making a charitable donation or for sponsoring the show, which is also a tax-deductible opportunity for you. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. You can find Moco Sideline Sports Show also on Facebook. And to reach me, you can email Moco Sideline Sports Show at gmail.com with ideas or references for the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.